we will get started. All right. So today's lesson is Wounds from the Past. Today's lesson is Wounds from the Past. Initially, the title was Introducing Brokenness. I'll start with Psalms 147, verse 3. It says, He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. So I changed the name from last week's lesson was Introducing Wholeness, and I'll review that in a minute. I changed this lesson from Introducing Brokenness because I realized that there's two definitions that Christians use for brokenness, and I didn't want to confuse people. So the two definitions, one definition is that brokenness is a state of having unhealthy thoughts, actions, or perceptions, behaviors due to past negative experience. So basically not being healed from something. So emotional wounds, or it could have been from trauma, rejection, depression, or death of a loved one, or it could just be from life, just regular life, having some type of something you need to be healed from. That's one definition of brokenness. But the other definition of brokenness we used in Christianity is to surrender. So it's a state of complete surrender to God because you've reached the end of yourself. So you as a result of maybe bad experiences, or you hit rock bottom, that you finally given up on trying it yourself and you're turning over it to God. You know, you got beat down by life so much, and now you're giving control on to God. You're saying, Jesus, take the wheel. You're no longer relying on your own knowledge and ability. That's the other definition of brokenness. So when we use brokenness here, I'm talking about the first definition. Basically, needing to be healed of something from the past. And what we started to see last week is that we're all broken. Everyone is broken. You know, there's different degrees of brokenness, but we're all broken, and it's in some way by things that happened in the past. You know, and I gave my testimony of how I realized I was broken in things and from the past. You know, you can be broken from dysfunctional family. It could have been abuse in your history. It could have had a bad breakup. You know, maybe your parents just left you in the crib too long, and when you cried and no one came to come to you, you felt abandoned, or maybe you were spoiled growing up. You know, all of those leave some type of things that you need healing from, just the different things from life. So last week the lesson was Introducing Wholeness. And I'll review that. Introducing wholeness. Introducing wholeness. So wholeness is when your life lines up with what God planned for you before the foundation of the earth. So being whole allows you to do everything that God has planned for your life. Three things happen when you become whole. You get a new lease on life. You break generational curses, and you get restoration. We looked at some of the fruits of wholeness, some of the things, the characteristics that you'll have when you're whole, some of the characteristics that you have when you become whole. You'll have good relationships, both with same gender and opposite gender. So romantic relationships, friendship relationships. You'll have good relationships. You'll be what God wants you to be. You'll have the ability to give and receive love. You can fully give and receive love. You can fully give and receive the love of God. You'll have confidence when you're whole. You'll be honest. You'll live by principles and values. You can express your emotions clearly and directly, and your feelings clearly and directly. You set healthy boundaries. You live life with passion and purpose. You're not seeking approval from others. You're optimistic. You're not worried and anxious all the time. You're authentic, which we'll get more into today. You're able to be vulnerable. You're accepting that God loves you as you are. So you accept the fact that God loves you as you are when you're whole. When you're whole, you're free from addictions. You don't lose control, and you don't avoid conflict either when you're whole. So those are some of the fruits of wholeness. Kind of a natural wholeness, but then we also looked at the spiritual wholeness, which last week I called biblical wholeness, but we'll call it spiritual wholeness. So some of the other fruits of wholeness, when we become fully whole, we get peace, joy, love. We love others. We have patience. We're kind to others. Goodness, faithfulness, gentleness. We have self-control when we're whole. We can admit when we're wrong. We give to others without expecting something in return. And we're forgiving. We're forgiving. And we talked about the fact that spiritual wholeness and also natural or clinical wholeness is a result of being led by the Spirit, renewing your mind, and ultimately inheriting the kingdom of God or entering the kingdom of God. And so by being led by the Spirit, that means that you hear from the Holy Spirit inside of you and you obey it. You obey the Holy Spirit. You obey Him. Renewing your mind, the short version meaning that you know the will of God and you approve or you agree with it. You agree with it. And so how wholeness can help bring that into play. An example, I don't know how good an example, but an example I thought of is if you have a couple that is fighting all the time. They fight and they yell at each other and they scream. And then you ask the guy, why are you guys fight all the time? They say, oh, because, she's so negative. She's never clear with what she wants. And you ask the woman, why do you guys fight all the time? Say, oh, because he's so bossy and he's hard-headed. But realistically, both of them have fought like that in every relationship they've been in. So it can't be that person. But they the real cause is their parents fought like that. Both of their parents fought like that. So their view. So even though they may say that, okay, a good relationship, we don't do this and don't do that, but their view of love is that type of fighting. Their view of relationship is that type of fighting. And so until they renew their mind to not thinking that that's what love looks like, to not thinking a relationship looks like, they aren't going to cure the symptoms of fighting. So that's kind of what renewing your mind is, and how wholeness relates to renewing your mind. So renewing your mind is also so when you feel the same way about sin that God does, and you love people the same way that Jesus does once you're fully renewed your mind. So these are goals that we're trying to eventually get to. These are goals that we're trying to eventually get to. And I mentioned that how inheriting the kingdom of God is something Jesus said, the kingdom of God is here. So Jesus was saying this is something we can achieve now. Mm-hmm. Paul talked about it. He said, those who are this and that, adulterers, fornicators, gossipers, they can't inherit the kingdom of God. But he wasn't saying you can't go to heaven. Jesus said the kingdom of God is here. So inheriting the kingdom of God is when you obtain the fruits of the Spirit, you're led by the Spirit, and you have renewed your mind. That's when you inherit the kingdom of God. That's when you have inherited the kingdom of God. You're living the way on earth that Jesus came to tell us that we could live here on earth. And then finally, the process that we said that we're going to be going through. So it's not kind of a one lesson, hey, this is your issue, this is the fix. It's going to be over a series of lessons. The process, the first step is what we talked about as self-awareness, is understanding all the characteristics of yourself, your behaviors, your beliefs, your defense mechanism, coping strategies, triggers and responses. The second step is to identify which characteristics of yourself are broken or unhealthy. So, these are all my characteristics, and these are the ones that I want to change or that I need to change. If possible, to identify the source, where that all started, and then working to change them, change our nature, change our characteristics. So that's a summary of the last lesson. So for those of you here, what are some things that were here, what are some things that stood out for you in the last lesson, or some things that you took away?
Not to compare yourself to others, not to, but just like lean on God for all that you need.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I took away a lot, Michael. you know, you know, accepting who you are, and um, I took that, I took that away, but then I was still kind of like confused because it's like I'm still working on who I am, and
Mm.
getting to know who I am. So that point of acceptance was really challenging. And it's like, when do you fully know who you are? So I wasn't
Mm.
sure like how long that'll take for me to feel that part of wholeness.
Mm.
But at least it's being self-aware. So there were so many things on that the definitions of wholeness. I jotted those down and took note of them, and um, a lot of them can kind of take precedence over the other. I felt like it also depends on what stages you are, in your life purpose. You know,
Mm.
um, but it definitely
Yeah.
gave me a lot of. I looked at them as tools of what I need to, areas of where I need to work on.
Right.
Some, some I'm there with, some I'm not. But having a list of, it at least gives me, a way to set some goals on. Okay, this is what I could be putting my efforts in becoming whole. So,
Right. Okay. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Yeah. So last week the goal wasn't to. So the goal was just kind of. I don't know if I was going to mention this later, but the goal of this last week and this week was kind of. So we're looking at a book, Wholeness by Torrey Roberts. It's kind of matching the first part of the book. The goal wasn't to necessarily define everything, define all the traits. Definitely not to come up with a solution. The goal of last lesson, this lesson, the next lesson is just to let everyone realize that we all have something to work on, and then that's just kind of where we're starting from. So it wasn't necessarily that you have the solution for everything now, and but yeah. Oh, it's frozen on me. Okay. And let's see. Anybody else? Anything stood out from the last lesson?
I think when you asked us last week to start thinking and being aware of why we do something or why we react the way we do, and it's kind of interesting when you look back through the week to really be able to pinpoint the why. It's like this made me upset. Well, like you said, why did it make you upset, and what does that point that it triggers back to that we're not necessarily thinking of, and to realize that we are kind of broken in more ways than we probably initially realized. And so that's
All right.
like with the self-awareness part.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. All right. So let me go on. So we had a book. We have a book that we're using. It's Wholeness by Torrey Roberts. So it's an optional book. So we're going to be mentioning it and talking of it, but it's not something you have to have. So I'm gonna, and I mentioned that for this lesson we're going to talk about the preface and chapter 1. That's not going to be the whole of the lesson, but so I'm just going to summarize the preface in 2 sentences. What I got from the preface was that wholeness is a state of being complete, to be unbroken, having no cracks or missing parts. Wholeness is the highest and healthiest version of any person. A version of you so awesome that if you die before experiencing it, then it's life's greatest tragedy. Until we are made whole on every level, we're left leaking. If brokenness never gets resolved over our lifetime, it will cost us significantly. So what are some ways you guys think it'll cost us if we don't get made whole? What are some things in life that it'll cost us if we aren't made whole?
I think that when you react, when
somebody, doesn't, I don't know, might offend you in some way, and you react like you have the choice to react positive or negative. And if you're, whole, I think that you sort of, forgive, and you just, take it in a good way.
Right.
Just let it go. Like, it doesn't bother you anymore. You just let it go.
Yeah, definitely. Any other? Oh, go ahead.
Well, it'll cost you. It costs a lot because if you were saying like all of these things were a part of being whole, like being honest, setting boundaries, if you're avoiding conflict and things like that, then that costs you relationships, that costs you friendships. It's a lot if you don't become whole. And it's just, it seems like it takes time to become whole and to really focus on it. So it will cost you a lot. Like, in breaking generational curses, that's like a huge thing.
Yeah, definitely.
So you don't want to keep
You affect your
repeating
children,
the same
your children's children.
negative lifestyle, right? So you want to be the first one out of your family to do something different, or something like that.
First one out of your family that wasn't alcoholic, or first one out of your family that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're debt free. You
went to college.
The addictions and things like that. So yeah, going to college. I don't know. It will cost you a lot.
Yeah. It can cost you, like you mentioned, it can cost your children, your children's children. It can impact generations if you don't become
generation. It can affect a whole generation. If you don't get right with someone, if you don't forgive someone, if you don't, it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. All right. Okay, and then let's see. In chapter 1, his chapter 1 was I thought I was whole already. So in the chapter he says the most trustworthy diagnosis in life don't come from external examinations, but they come from internal examinations. Gave an example of going to the doctor and everything looked fine until he got the blood test back a few days later. We should prioritize our inner life versus our outer. Be proactive and not passive in pursuing wholeness. Your outer life emanates from your inner life. Then he basically said that there are 3 groups of people in regards to wholeness. Number 1, those who don't know that they aren't whole. Number 2, those who know that they aren't, but they don't know what to do about it. And number 3, those who know they aren't, they know what to do about it, but they're afraid to do it. As maybe it's, afraid of change or what it may cost me, or just what's going to happen if I do something different. So those are the 3 groups he said. Does anybody see yourself in one of those 3 groups related to wholeness? Either now or prior to the lesson, where you didn't know that you weren't whole, you knew you were whole, but you didn't know what to do about it, or you knew what to do about it, but you just didn't start. Can anybody relate to any of those?
Yes.
All right. And let's.
Say which one.
Oh, go ahead.
But do you want us to say which one?
Me? Or the.
I think she was asking if you want us to give the exact example of which one.
Oh yeah. If you.
Oh.
You're not fit in all of those categories. It depends. What part of wholeness?
Which
It
area?
Depends on what it
has
is.
not happened.
Like,
The majority is
Mm.
is number 2, and then leaning into number 3.
Okay.
I have a lot in number in like I'm between 1 and 3.
Okay.
1 and 3 is where I'm at. Like I know, but sometimes I don't know. Like I'm not doing that. That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, when you gotta face, when it comes to brokenness, right? Like you said, that childhood trauma, and working on that, you have to revisit those old feelings in
Yeah.
order to get past that, in order to work on that process of getting there. That could be scary.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, if it's things that were traumatic, memories that were traumatic, things that happen, or a situation that came in, part of being whole is to address it, to go back to it. I mean, not necessarily, we'll talk about later about, maybe or maybe not actually talk to the person, but definitely bringing the memory back up. And yeah, maybe you don't want to go through that. Maybe you want to try to forget about it, or maybe you have forgotten about it, pushed it away. And yeah, that definitely can be part of it. All right, so let's get into the lesson for today. So we start off looking at the fact that we're all broken. Mark 2:17 says, "And hearing this, Jesus said to them, 'It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick. I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners.'" So Jesus came for the sick. He didn't die for the perfect people. He came for the sick. He came to help us. And so we talk. So some people, there's some people who they have problems. Maybe they have addictions. Maybe they have issues, bad attitudes, and they become a Christian. They become a Christian, and it all goes away. They lose all their addictions, and they get full of joy, and they're full of faith, and they're changed. But then there's other people, they had these issues, and they got saved, and then they went home, and nothing was changed. It's like, I was saved, now I'm just, now I'm a saved alcoholic, now I'm a saved gossiper, now I'm a saved liar. Now I'm a saved person who brags, or a saved person who watched pornography, or a saved person with fornication and lust. It didn't take away their anxiety and their worry. It didn't take away their jealousy and their envy. It didn't take away their anger. It didn't take away their being judgmental. It didn't take away their unforgiveness. They still can't forgive that joker that did that thing. Being saved didn't heal any of that. A lot of times we like to say, well, you need to just pray, just ask God to take it away. Just ask God to take it away. And without, we like to say that, but, realizing that, if it was that easy, how come I still got what I got? if everything, God would just take away, a lot of stuff he will take away, but a lot of times he won't. So it's, it needs work. So what do you say if it didn't work? And so that's what we're looking at so we all have issues that need work. And so with the wholeness, it's not even just sin that we're addressing. It's sin, but it's also just behaviors that are detrimental to living a healthy life, detrimental to your future progress. So the brokenness, we're not just addressing. So we're addressing sin, but we're not just addressing sin. We're addressing just habits and behaviors and thoughts and patterns that are detrimental to your life in general. And a lot of people will say, well, that's just how I am. That's just how I am. And I just need to find somebody to accept me as I am, or that's but it's not just who you are, because the brokenness is a fruit the brokenness is, there's a root, and then a lot of the traits of brokenness are fruit of that root. You know, there's a root, an issue, and then these other symptoms are fruits of that issue. They're fruits from the tree of your brokenness, of the tree from your issues, and the symptoms that we're going to be talking about are symptoms of brokenness. You know, and like we mentioned, you know, it could be from something that happened last week. It could be from something, you know, at childhood, you know, so everyone could be broken. It could be, you know, you got left in the crib too long, so you felt abandoned. You know, you came, you know, you're 1 year old and you already feel abandoned. You know, or you were the product of an unwanted pregnancy. You know, psychologists say that you can feel rejection in the womb, so you came out feeling rejected. You know, you have rejection issues now when someone doesn't, you know, respond to you, or someone doesn't return your text, or someone, you know, when someone says something, you come to a conclusion that, oh, they didn't say hi to me because this and this and this. You know, it's because you have rejection issues from back before you were born. You know, or maybe, you know, your parents, they were really busy. They were successful and busy, and you couldn't get their attention unless you were bad. So now you're dramatic all the time, and you gotta act out because that's how you learn to get attention. That's how you got love. And so it could be brokenness from a lot of different areas, a lot of different ways, and there's brokenness in all of us. And brokenness will impact your Christianity. It can impact your Christianity. So when you're broken, it may impact your being able to trust God. You can't fully trust God. You don't really have faith. You don't have faith because of some of the areas you're broken with. Or you say that God loves you, but you don't really believe that God loves you, because you don't really believe that anybody can love you because of your brokenness. Or maybe having your identity in Christ. Having your identity in Christ, my identity as a Christian, you know, I'm not worried about, but you're worried about, you know, what other people think and what everything. Your identity isn't fully in Christ because of your brokenness. So your brokenness can impact your walk, your Christian walk. And so it keeps, and so your Christianity and your life can't progress above your level of brokenness. So you're not going to be able to progress above the level of your brokenness. So let's see. In addition to those I mentioned, what are some ways you think that being broken can impact your walk with Christ?
It's a good question.
I think that when
Go ahead.
I think when you're, you know, let's say you're rejected, or you don't feel comfortable or accepted, the idea that God loves you, you know, might take you longer to comprehend, or not really understand it, that somebody loves you with all your defects.
Right. Yeah.
I think also your prayer life might get affected, because you're like, I've been rejected and now I don't want to, like, I think, you know, like when I first came to Jesus, like, I thought it was going to be all hunky-dory, and it wasn't. Like, like it was crazy. And so I lost a lot of friends and everything, and then I wasn't praying too, so I was like, what's going? So you have to be it's like a full, you got to have your prayer life, your worship, your hearing the word, helping you through those hard times of rejection and things like that.
Yeah.
That all gets affected.
Yeah.
I think when you kind of put yourself back in that space of brokenness that you were in before, you know, your walk, meaning like if you put yourself back in that situation, you know, like say you're an addict and you start still hanging out with that same crew, you know, that same type of people,
Right.
you know, that can potentially influence you to regress, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put your back and lose your faith, and now you've lost your walk. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So you've changed, but you haven't gotten out of the environment, and so it pulls you back.
Still sitting in that same situation while you study, you know, you're in this walk with Christ, but you know that, you know, your walk with Christ is not where it's just that brokenness that you left behind, right?
Yeah.
You find yourself back in those, you know, that same setting again, that could potentially influence you to stray away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like you changed, but he still got your number. What? Huh? Oh, never mind. No. Oh, no, we don't. Oh, no, we don't talk about that.
Supposed to be done with that, but, you know.
All right. Welcome, Rodney. Oh, were you going to say something, Eric?
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say that once you got saved, it's a process. Because once you moment to say that day, you know, you're going to have a lot of trials and tribulations, and Satan's still right there, still trying to destroy you. And he's going to discourage you. He's going to do everything he tried to do to discourage you from why you got saved. He's going to remove, God's going to, you know, he's going to remove people around you that you hung out with before. It's God's way of getting your attention. And this is the part that people don't understand. And it's going to be a long process until God brings those right people in life to grow in your walk with God. Because I remember my walk I had all my friends from high school and everybody, but all of a sudden they started walking away, going their own lives. I didn't understand at the time. I thought it was Satan, but no, it was God preparing me to be a mature Christian, to study my word and get into worship. I'm so a strong believer in worship now, because when everybody walks away from you, I just worship him and fall on my knees. And he give me that strength, and the joy comes from him. It doesn't come from people no more. The strength comes from the Lord. And it's a long process. It's not something overnight. It can take a lifetime. And when you get to that point where you know you're happy in the Lord and people come and go, it don't matter. When you have all that, you spend time in your word and everything. You go right back to your word and you get all that joy and renew your strength again. And you got so many people that God will place in your path to be a blessing to. That's also a process. That takes time. That's not some overnight thing.
Amen. All right. Yep. All right. So now we're going to look at so last time we looked at the fruits of wholeness. This time we're going to look at the fruits of brokenness. The fruits of brokenness. So what are some of the symptoms that come from brokenness? Some of the symptoms that come from brokenness. So we're going to identify some of the symptoms. We're not necessarily going to be talking about how to fix them today. We're going to be just identifying what they are. But it's kind of like last time we kind of got deep into anger. But in some ways it could be like if you go to the doctor and you're saying, hey, I have pain. I need you to give me something for my pain. And I'm really fatigued. I have pain and fatigue. Can you give me something for this pain and fatigue? I just need a prescription for it. And then the doctor said, well, let me ask you some questions. When did it start? It's like, well, it started last night. It's like, well, did anything happen? He said, well, it was right after I had this fight with a guy. It's like, oh, okay, so you're pain and fatigue. He said, tell me some more details. He said, well, right after, not long after the fight, my shirt got wet, so let me look. Oh, well, there's blood there. It's like, did something happen? Well, yeah, he shot me. Because it's like, whoa, the pain and fatigue isn't your problem. It's like the bullet. So it's like we have these symptoms, and we don't want to necessarily start trying to fix them right away, because they could just be symptoms of something else. So we may have a lot of things that are symptoms, but let's keep going. And then if we could find the roots of some of these things, then the symptoms will just go away by themselves, or just the ability to recognize the symptoms yourself, I guess, is the one of the main goals and addressing. But we will get to address how to address them. But today we're going to talk about the fruits. What are the fruits? What are the fruits of brokenness? So the first fruit of brokenness we'll talk about, let's see, we'll start with Galatians 1:10. Who had Galatians 1:10?
Sorry, my phone just died. I think it said, what did it say? It was the verse about seeking God's approval and not man's approval. And I'm sorry that my phone died and my battery died.
Okay, I'll read it. It says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or God? Or am I trying to please man? If I were still trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." So he's saying that if he was still trying to please man, he wouldn't be a servant of Christ. So the first symptom we're looking at is being overly concerned with the opinions of others. Overly concerned with the opinions of others. And so that's a big symptom, and it's a broad symptom that affects a lot of people. Definitely affects me. One of the things I realize, and a lot of times we're thinking, people may have been thinking before the call, well, what are they going to think about me? Or you, before you go somewhere, it's like, oh, or I bet they think this, or why did I say that? Why did I say that? And you're just constantly worried about what other people think about you. I know when I first started going to the Bible study at ALCF, I had just finished a period of 7 years. I was like really doing a heavy Bible study on my own, and and I came there and I was contributing, and I was making sure that when I answered the questions that they knew, that I knew the Bible. It's like, oh well, that's the Logos and da da da. And it's like I was wanting to impress people, or you go somewhere and you don't want people to think badly about you, or you say something churchy answer instead of what you do in your own life, because we're worried about what other people think. We're worried about what other people might think about us. A lot of places we go, and I've seen that happens in two ways. So there's one group of people that are worried about what strangers think about them, worried about people that they don't know think about them, and then also when they're in a relationship, they're really worried about what the person they're in a relationship thinks about them. But then you have other people that they're really worried about what strangers say, but once they're in a relationship, they just say whatever they want. They don't care about, it seems that they don't care at all about the other person's feelings. They say whatever they want. And so one person is walking on eggshells and the other person just says whatever they want. And so the caring about other people's opinion, and so I noticed that like in relationships, it was like I'm sending a text or saying something, and then it's like, ooh, I hope I said the right thing. I hope I did the right thing. I hope I said the right thing, but letting the other person determine whether or not I said the right thing. You say something to somebody and hope they don't blow up because you're letting them determine whether or not you did the right thing or said the right thing. And so we don't want to be so overly concerned about what other people think as a sign of brokenness. So we want to be, the Bible does talk about, reputation being important. So we want to be concerned about our reputation. But if it gets to the point where it's causing you to have some of these other fruits of brokenness that we're going to get to, worrying about other people's opinion, that's when it's a problem. that's when it's a problem. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I like how you put it differently by letting, by saying how other people determine what, what your right is or what putting it in their hands, giving them that type of power. I had never even looked at it in that, point of view. But yeah, that's really good to know that. And I see put myself in that position, like, let me see what they think. But, depending on how they were reacting, that must mean what, just letting people have that control and not really leaving it in God's hands. So.
Right. Yeah. And that's actually that's part of one of the others. Yeah. And so another way that can play out is not being authentic. So if you're overly concerned with what people think, then you're not authentic. Who has Matthew 10:28?
I said I had 10:38. Is it 10:28?
10:28, yes. 10:28.
Okay. And do not fear those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell.
Right. So don't be afraid of what other people think. Be afraid of what God thinks. So you should be more afraid of what God thinks about you than what other people think about you. So not being able to be authentic is a sign of brokenness. Not being able to be authentic. So when they have a phrase, they talk about keeping it 100, meaning 100% real. And so I mean, there are some people that are, they're authentically broken. They just say mean and hurtful things and say whatever they want. But there's the side where if you're not being authentic because you're worried about what other people think, then that's a sign of brokenness. So if the reason you aren't being authentic is because you're worried about what other people think, then that's a sign of brokenness. Because if you're constantly worried about, did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Once you become whole, then whatever you say is going to be the right thing. That's a sign of wholeness. But if you're constantly worried about what other people are thinking, and therefore you're not authentic, then that's a sign of brokenness. The next sign of brokenness that could happen because you're worried about other people's opinion is lying. So lying, maybe you're doing white lies. You're saying white lies because you're scared of what the other person's going to say. You do white lies. For example, you say, I'll be there in 10 minutes. It's like, why did you say you'll be there in 10 minutes when your GPS says 14? It's like, or why are you changing the truth? And if it's because you're afraid of the other person's reaction, or afraid of what they say, then that's a sign of brokenness. Well, if you're not telling the truth for any reason, that it's a sign of brokenness. But that's a sign of being concerned what other people think. So you lie. You tell people that you're going to go. You tell people, I'm going to go to I'll be there. I'm going to go to the party, because you don't want to tell them that you're not going. And then, as we talked about last week, they say, hey, you're going to do this? And you say, God willing. When you know whether God is willing or not, you're not going to do it. It's like it's because you're concerned about what other people think. Oh, man. And my internet died. Okay.
We can still hear you.
Oh, yeah, see, any thoughts on that? My lesson went away. Any thoughts?
My thought is when you said how, other people's opinions, right? when you say things, and you mentioned like when you say things and you know that you're right, you know, or, well, when you come from a place of wholeness, you say things that you are, you know, that you know is right, you know, and that confused me a little bit, because if you're still in your process of growing and understanding and getting to know who you are, you know, how do you come to that level of comfort to say that, yeah, you know, what I said was, you know, was right.
What
You know what I mean?
I guess it's not even necessarily right or wrong. I mean, it's right, but not necessarily right sense of like correctness, like, you know, a math problem. You know, I got the right answer because I'm whole. But right in the sense that, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, I understand.
Maybe I should. So not in the sense that, you know, whether
Being self-aware, right?
being self-aware and not gauging it on other people's response.
Got it.
Okay, this page is not going.
Kind of like beating yourself up for whatever you said. Like you're looking at people's faces while you're responding to something, and now you're like, oh my gosh, they didn't smile.
Right.
Oh my gosh, what did I say?
Right.
I'm the worst person in the world, you know.
Right. Right.
Kind of thing. I mean, I think I probably, well, I know I used to be like that too, and now I don't care. I'm like, it's now I'm like, you know, am I being edifying to God? Is, you know, so.
Yeah, and I'm like that, and then but yeah, you can't get too far to the other extreme, where you don't care, but then there are those who don't care unless they feel that it makes them look bad, but it depends on whose opinion it matters to them.
Okay, when I mean I don't care, it doesn't mean that I'm not being kind.
Okay.
I still care, but whether I mess up on saying a different word that I didn't mean, or saying something and like, oh no, now they know that I think about these or whatever.
Right.
Now
right.
it's like, you know, whatever, if they're gonna think whatever they think, what's important is what God thinks. But you know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You're still conscious about being kind and how that other person is going to react about what you're telling them, maybe if you're ministering to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to say things in a kind way instead of like a hurtful, like you know what I mean?
Right. Definitely. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly.
To speak of the lying part, I think that's kind of connected to people pleasing, because you're like, oh, you know, like I just want to appease to that person.
Right.
So like, oh, I'll be there, so you don't want to hurt their feelings, right?
Right.
But you're kind of like people pleasing, you know.
Right.
So it's still kind of connected to one. Like you're kind of concerned.
Yeah, it's connected to pleasing others, and it's, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but it's going to hurt their feelings if you don't go. But you're not worried about that. You don't want to hurt their feelings when they're standing in front of you.
It's like an instant gratification of people pleasing.
Right.
Because you're not thinking about, okay, like it's going to hurt their feelings when they got the food and the balloons and all this other stuff. You know, you're not thinking about all that. You're just like, oh, let me just say I'm coming to put a smile on their face and make them feel like they're important.
Right. And usually it's, you don't want to hurt their feelings right now with them in front of you, because they're going to tell you, they're going to, you don't, you rather do it when they, and text them right before the event happens and come up with, oh, I'm busy, something, but it's not, and it's really not, you don't want to hurt their feelings, is you don't want to have to address the issue. You don't want to have to face it.
Conflict.
You don't want the conflict. Yeah, you're avoiding the conflict. You don't.
Avoiding conflict because
Yeah.
avoiding conflict is like it is a form of lying.
Yeah.
When you don't address something that bothers you, it's a form of lying. Like because it hurts you. And you're like, well, I don't want to deal with them. But then you get all bitter and you don't want to deal with that person. You got attitude, when you see them.
Right.
So, or you talk behind their back. So, like,
Yeah.
it is a form of lying.
Right.
know?
It's a form of and it's a result of brokenness. It is definitely a result of brokenness. Yeah. So whether it's commission, you could lie by commission or omission.
So it also causes kind of a domino effect because you're like, oh no, yeah, I'll be there, and then the person's like all happy that you're gonna go,
Right.
and then you either like text them right before and you're like, oh sorry, something came up. Now there's a lie because nothing came up. You're just not wanting to go, and now that breaks that person's heart, and now they peg you as someone who's flaky and someone they can't depend on. So it's kind of a domino effect, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Right. And it maybe something did come up, but if you weren't intending to go, additionally, so you were looking for something else. So it's like when you told them if you weren't intending to go, then that's a problem. That's brokenness. If you told them you were, then that's brokenness. Because you wanted to avoid the conflict. You wanted to, or you said, "Oh, I'll be there in 10 minutes," because if you told them you're gonna be in 30 minutes, they're gonna say something. They're gonna, well, what took you so long? What's holding you up? It's like, so you say, I'll be there in 10 minutes. And then your GPS says, estimated time 25 minutes. What? Oh, nothing. Nothing. Oh, that was. That's my dog. That's my dog.
Outside now.
They show up an hour later.
I've had that happen before. Yeah, show up an hour later. All right, so let's see. The next one is we kind of touched on it. So the fact that you're worried about other people's opinion mean that you don't live by principles and morals. So you don't live by principles and morals. You're a chameleon. You're living your life based on other people's response. So when I'm with this group, I say these things because these people agree with this. When I'm with this group, I may say this other thing. I don't have principles and morals. So that's kind of what we're talking about. Then not basing it on the other people's response. It's like I'm going to say this because I think that's what they want to hear, or I think I'm going to get the response I want from them if I say this, or I'm going to be accepted in the group if I say this. But if I'm over in this other group, I'll say this other thing, or I just won't mention. Somebody said this thing that was, racist or anti this or anti that, and it's like I just won't say anything about it. It's like I'm going to sit there as if I agree. I didn't agree. I didn't say anything, but when I'm with this group, I'm speaking out against it. So it's like you're a chameleon depending on which group you're in. So it's you're not living by principles and morals. You're worried about other people's opinion. So that's another effect of worried about other people's opinion. Letting other people determine whether you're right or wrong. And so I'm posting what I post on Facebook depending on how many people like it. That's how people end up with naked pictures on Facebook. They got 7,000 likes when they posted that. When they put up a picture of Jesus, they only got 3. So so the bikini pig wins. All right, and then we get to what Lorraine mentioned. Another sign of being broken is you're unkind. You're not kind. So who has Micah 6:8?
I do. Let's see, Micah 6:8. I'm reading out of King James Version. So it says, he has showed thee, O man, what is good, And what doeth the Lord require of thee, but to do justly and to love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God.
Amen. So we want to do us justice and love and kindness. So we want to be kind. So not being kind is a sign of brokenness. So that's kind of the opposite. So you want to be authentic, but you want to be kind. So you have some people that are authentic. They aren't speaking because they're worried about other opinions, but they're not kind. So we need both. We need to be kind and authentic. And I mean, not that we're not worried about other people's opinion, but we're not doing these other things based on other people's opinion. We're not lying because of it. We're not being inauthentic because of it. We're not being a chameleon because we're worried about their opinion.
We're considering their feelings.
Right. Yeah, we're considering their feelings. So I mean, you're still not lying about it. You're still not, but you're considering their feelings. You're going to be kind about it. You address the issue, but you're kind about it. You're not, cursing them out and yelling at them. You don't let it necessarily go, but you're kind. You're kind about it.
Lovingly.
Yeah. It's like I would prefer that you hadn't have just jumped right into my lane, sir. But there's not a hand gesture for that. No, actually, this is good. If somebody does something silly on the road, just give them a smile and thumbs up. They'll feel worse. All right.
Like rolling down the window and starting to yell out certain things is not the right thing.
No, that's not the right thing.
What did you
She has us rolling down the window and yelling certain things at them.
Are you blind? That says no U-turn.
All right. So the next one is contempt. Who has Proverbs 18:3? Okay, Eric.
When wickedness comes, so does contempt.
I think you're on mute.
When wickedness comes, so does contempt. And with shame comes reproach.
All right. So when wickedness comes, so does contempt. So contempt is it's the feeling that a person or a thing is beneath you. It's beneath consideration, is worthless, deserves scorn, so dishonor. So this person, you just kind of disgusted by this person. Contempt is you just don't like this person, and this person just disgusts you, and that's a sign of brokenness. Especially if you have contempt towards everybody or a lot of people, that's a sign of brokenness. Some people they say, "Oh, I hate when they do that. I hate when it's like you hate a lot of stuff." That's just a sign of brokenness. If the person, even if that person does something that's right, you wouldn't give them credit for it. It's just like, oh, I hate that person. So a lot of people have contempt for political figures. A lot of people have contempt for Trump, or contempt for Biden, or contempt for Kanye West. It's like they could do something you wanted done, but you're not gonna. It's like they've done. It's like you got them put in this category that. But then if you have contempt for people that you don't even know anything about, then that's really a sign of brokenness. You have people in this category because of maybe their race or their profession or the kind of car they drive. Ooh, I hate people that drive those. Those people that drive those hybrids. They think they're better than us. Ooh, those vegans. They think if you just have contempt for a whole group of people, then that's a sign of brokenness. That's a sign of brokenness. I feel like you might be a redneck. that. Have you heard those jokes? Never mind. But no, that's a sign of brokenness. No, that's a never mind. Contempt. So the next one is negative assumptions. Negative assumptions. So every time someone says something, you just assume the worst. You assume the worst. Negative assumptions, you assume the worst. Like maybe you think, oh, I'm not going to give that homeless person any money because they're going to spend it on alcohol. And oh, I'm going to, just everybody, you just think negative, you just assume the worst. Whatever they do, you assume the worst. This person, you just assume the worst from them. You never give them the benefit of doubt. All men are dogs. All men are dogs. You just assume the worst of people because that's a sign of brokenness. That's a sign of brokenness that you've been wounded. Maybe you've been devalued or your heart hurt or betrayed in the past, and now you just have negative assumptions about everybody. Something happened where now you have negative assumptions about a whole group of people or just everybody. Somebody smiles and says hi to you. Somebody is nice to you. Oh, what do you want? What do they want? They must want something. Somebody is nice to you, they must want something. They oh no, what do they? Whenever a lot of people, if the preacher, when the offering time comes up, some people are like, oh, they just want my money. I knew this was coming. They're going to ask me for some money. You just have negative assumptions. You're thinking the worst about people. That's a sign of brokenness. See any thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned negative assumptions from the past can go into your future because the people in your past hurt you so bad. Then you see new people, then your negative assumptions are already there. And it's judgment that comes with that.
Yeah.
You have all this anxiety. And it's like you'll never go without it until you get rid of it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Eric, do you know that you're getting feedback? Sound feedback? I just didn't know if you...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we could hear some feedback.
That's
Okay.
bad.
All right. The next one is complacency. Complacency. So complacency, basically, you don't even want to try. You don't want to try to understand. You don't want to try to be nice. You don't want to try to change. It's like if they want me, they just gonna have to take me as I am. Those like you gotta do complete. So that's a side of brokenness. You've been through so much. You just like I'm not even trying no more. It's like I've been looking for so many jobs. I'm just gonna sit here and I'm getting really good at this video game. There's no you. Why am I? You're just complacent now. You give up. No more trying. You've been hurt. That's a sign of brokenness. It's a sign of brokenness. The next sign of brokenness is being judgmental. Who has Matthew 7:1-3? Is that you, Jaime? Oh, no.
I can read it if nobody else has it.
Okay.
What was it?
Matthew 7:1-3.
That's me.
Oh, that's you? Oh, okay.
Let me pull that up for you guys. I'm sorry. Okay. This is from so do not judge others. The voice of God.
Mm.
Do not judge others, and you will not be judged, for you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged. And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own? What can you think of saying to your friend, let me help you get rid of that speck in your eye, when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite. Well, I went further than that, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it's hypocritical. So judging is you're always pointing out something bad. You're always pointing out something bad. But judging is also could be pointing out something good. But just the fact that you're judging everything, whether it's good or bad. So I mean, there, you know, if you're a judge, then that's fine. If there's scenarios where it's appropriate. But if you're walking through, you know, oh, look at the person doing that. They shouldn't be doing that. Or you know, always, you're doing this wrong. Or it's like, why are you doing? And just, you're judging everything right or wrong. If you're judgmental, then that's a sign of brokenness. You're always tearing down people. If you're always tearing down people, you're judging other people. You're tearing other people down all the time. That's a sign of brokenness. Telling people what they're doing wrong. They shouldn't be doing that. You'll be judging. There's an expression that became derogatory, came kind of out of the Black Lives Matter movement, called Karen. Calling somebody a Karen because if someone, some people are having barbecue, they report it to the police. Black people having barbecue, or they're at Starbucks, and so it's because they be caring about stuff they don't need to care about. So if you're just worried about stuff that is not your business, is judging whether it's right or wrong. So judging whether is not good. So it's not just negative. So if you're pointing out something, but the fact, you know, it's like, why is the teacher drawing this on the chalkboard that way? She shouldn't do it this way. Why are they doing it this way? They shouldn't be doing it this way. So judging that somebody shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that is judging. So why are they wearing that dress with those shoes? Why are they, you know, that's judging. If you're noticing, they have, you know, but if you're judging that it's right or wrong, that's judging. So just noting that something is the case isn't judging. But when you're saying that it's right or wrong to be doing it, that's judging. And interesting thing I found in a relationship study is that that may actually have a gender difference in that. In the difference between men and women in some ways, that women, if you offer help to someone, it's a loving thing to do. So you're a loving thing to do to offer help to someone, and if someone loves you, they'll help you. Whereas men, if someone offers help to you when you didn't ask, they see it as you're calling them incompetent. You know, if you're driving with somebody and you're giving them directions, turn left, you know, and they didn't ask for your help, then they see it as you're thinking they're incompetent, where you know, a woman may think she's being helpful or judging. But so there is some gender, and that's not a wrong or right thing. That's just kind of how we were built, and that's not 100% of people, but in general, that's. So there are, some interesting, but judging in general, it's not good. It's a sign of brokenness. If you're always judging people, you got an opinion on everything, how they can do it better, and when it doesn't need an opinion. You know, the firemen, they shouldn't. You know, why are the firemen unkicking the hose before they turn on the water? It's like, what? Just let them do their job. Just don't assess whether it's right or wrong. Just, you know. And that's another thing in relationships. One of the things that I found early on is that, you know, you want to think, this person does this wrong, this person does it wrong. When somebody does something different than you, it's wrong. You do it the right way, they're doing it the wrong way. But you might just want to accept that different than you isn't necessarily wrong. It's just different. Because somebody wants to do something different than you, it's not necessarily wrong. If they're squeezing the toothpaste different or putting the toilet paper on different, it's not wrong. It's just different. You know, how they put the dishes in the dishwasher, it's not wrong. It's just different than how you do it. You know, it doesn't have to be right or wrong. You have a preference, they have a preference. It doesn't have to be right or wrong. It's just they're doing it different than you. That doesn't have to be wrong. It's just different. You have a preference.
Sometimes it hurts to just watch them do it wrong. It hurts so much. Like, I have to hold back myself. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to let them do it that way. And when it doesn't work, I'm going to be like, oh, you know, I have a better idea. I have an idea.
I was thinking of you as I was saying it.
I can't help it. I can't help it.
I wouldn't put the greens down the garbage disposal, Tasha.
I was like, okay. I was like, Maureen is probably going to say something about this.
You see, I held my tongue. I didn't want to, like, keep directing those guys to get that.
Yes, it can be hard not to judge, but yeah, sometimes people just do things different, especially if it doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, just don't have to assign right or wrong to it. It's just that's how they're doing it. That's just let it be. Just let them be. You don't have to no reason to judge it right or wrong. Just let it be. Another sign of brokenness is being ungrateful. Being ungrateful. Who has 1 Thessalonians 5:16 to 18 actually? It's 16 to 18.
I do.
Okay.
And my Bible thing is back up, so my apologies for the last one. Hold on. So, well, 5:16 and 17, I got to look up 18 now, but it was rejoice always and pray without ceasing. Oh, okay, and everything give thanks, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. That was
Right, so rejoice always. So we don't want to be ungrateful. So there's some people that they're never satisfied. They're entitled. Anything you do for them, they're not grateful. They're always focusing on what they don't have. They're not grateful for anything that they have, anything that was done. That's a sign of brokenness. So not being grateful is a sign of brokenness. And it'll prevent you from being happy. You know, gratitude is a big proponent of mental health. Being grateful. If you're grateful, you're not focused on what you don't have. You're not focused on what you lack. If you're always focused on what you don't have and what you lack, and you're never content or never happy, then that's a sign of brokenness. All right. The next one is irrational fear. So someone have Philippians 4:6?
Yeah, that's going to be me.
Okay.
I'm going over it for you guys. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your request be made known unto God.
All right, careful. So be anxious for nothing is another translation of it. So don't be so fearful. So some people are always fearful. They're always focused on the negative things. They're always imagining the worst. So their mind is set on the bad things that can happen. They're fearful. They're always thinking about fearful things. They're always thinking about what if this happens, or what if that happens, what if that happens. And only 10% of what they fear ever comes to be. But yet they focus on that. They give that their attention. They give that their energy. Their energy is always on the worst case scenario. Their energy is always on what could happen. What if this happens? Or what if that happens? It's fearful. And it just anxiety and fearful. And that's a sign of brokenness. If you're always afraid and always anxious, that's a sign of brokenness. And it's, I heard someone say something interesting, that it's setting your mind on things of the devil. You know, the verse says, set your minds on things of God and meditate on things of God. So you're basically setting your mind on things of the devil and meditating on things of the devil. So you're helping the devil. You're meditating on when you're fear and you're focused on negative and focused on fear, that's focusing on things of the enemy. So if you're irrational fear, you know, and it's easy, you know, now that we're sheltered in place, you know, a lot of people, all they can do is watch the news, and they're just, every day it's like, oh my goodness, killer hornets. Oh my goodness, it's a virus. Oh my goodness, it's a dust storm. Oh my goodness, the Amazon is going away. Oh my goodness, somebody didn't wear a mask. Oh my goodness, and it's just like, you could just constantly, there's more, and there's always going to be more. Oh my goodness, mail-in ballots. Oh my goodness, and it's just, they always give you something new. You always got something new that you could be afraid of, and you can just get focused and caught up on that. And so you don't want to set your mind. You don't want to meditate on the fearful things. I mean, you want to prepare for the bad situation. You know, oh my goodness, the stock market. You want to prepare for bad situations, but once you've gone past what you can do, you don't want to just constantly meditate on it. And it's hard, you know, and it's obviously easier said than done. But that is a sign of brokenness, to always be fearful. And one of the most often used commandment in the Bible is fear not. Fear not is the commandment you see most often in the Bible. What were you gonna say, Lorraine?
I was going to say that Tosh and I touched on this one just the other day. I think it was yesterday or the day before last, because I was on the Nextdoor app and I was noticing that I live in a good area, but our area has been targeted, and so there's been a bunch of car break-ins, like a lot of them in my area. And so, like, the other night I'm like, I'm super anxious because, you know, I don't want to leave my car, but I'm not sleeping in my car because I'm afraid someone's gonna break into it. And I'm like, when I leave it every night, I make sure I lock it, and then as I'm walking away, I press the lock button again on the fob, and then right before I get into my house, I press the lock button again. And Tosh is like, don't be anxious. I'm like, yeah, I know it says that in the Bible.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
Well, I guess
Confirmation.
Oh, go ahead, Jaime.
Well, sure. Yeah, I guess that's right. I couldn't agree with you more, Wayne. And another thing that I would like to mention about this is that, can you hear me well, guys?
Yes.
Okay. Is that obviously if you're worried about everything, like you're always concerned about something, and obviously that could affect your commitment with Jesus Christ. That could affect your commitment tremendously. And if you don't give all those concerns and all those things that you're going through at that very moment in particular to God, obviously that will be something that will be against your faith. That will affect your faith as well. And I guess that in that case in particular, we need to give everything to God. In that way He can handle that situation in particular, not us. That's what I...
Yeah. Exactly. It's kind of like if you're when you're living at home, when you're growing up, you're 10 and you needed a bike, and your tire got flat. You didn't have enough money for a new flat. Then you asked, Dad, can you give me a new tire? He said, yeah, I'll get you a new tire. And you're not really worried about it after that anymore. You turned it over to him. He says he's going to take care of it. You're not worried about it. You're not thinking, oh, I don't have a tire. What am I going to do about a tire? You turned it over to him, and he did it. And obviously it's not an exact correlation, because there are things you turn over and it didn't happen the way you wanted it. but that is a reflection of faith, a reflection of faith. The fear and the worry, worry that it's not going to turn out for good. You know, God said He was going to handle it for good. So we're worried about that I'm not going to get exactly what I want. But then there's also, well, God said He's going to work it for good. Whatever happens, He's going to work it for good. And so it's a reflection on that. Okay.
What about people who have phobias, you know, where they're stricken by fear, you know, and they're crippled by it, you know? And
Like snakes.
Yeah, so that's
Like
say
bears.
so that's
Bears
say
and tacos.
so that's say if a phobia is a sign of brokenness. So I don't have necessarily like the solution to it right now, but it is a it's a sign of brokenness, phobias, and there's you can turn it to God. There's you know, obviously there's, you know, counseling techniques to get through that, having you take a step at a time. Your acrophobia is like, okay, well, what's the worst thing that can happen if you go outside? You know, there's ways to get through it, but yeah, right now it's brokenness. It's definitely brokenness.
Yeah.
So it's a sign of brokenness.
Well,
And
I had
there
to lie
are different
one time
levels.
because of my friend's brokenness.
Wait, say that again? You had to
I
what?
had to lie one time because of my friend's brokenness. We were all going to have a little girl retreat up in Lake Tahoe, and she's like, "Are there bears?" I was like, "If I say yes, she's not going." No, there's no bears at all.
And she lied. Yes, I'm the
She
friend.
ended up going, and she had the best weekend ever. She didn't know that there were bears until we left the cabin when we had to put the bear metal thing back up on the across the door. But I repented, and I said I was sorry.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see. All right. So the next one is jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy. Who has James 3:16? Oh, go ahead, Eric. Yeah, James 3.
For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice.
Okay. All right. So, where there's jealousy and selfish ambition, you'll find every evil thing. So, envy means that you're longing for something someone else has without any ill intent towards that person. Jealousy means that it's a resentment or grudge you feel towards a person due to coveting what that person has or enjoys. It could be success, opportunity, relationship, or anything else that they desire. And so jealousy also refers to, if it's in a romantic relationship, jealousy refers to the romantic feeling of possessive suspicion. So it could be a possessive suspicion being jealous as well. So jealousy and envy. Jealousy and envy are signs of brokenness. If you're obsessively envious of other people, so jealousy is coveting. Jealousy and envy are basically you covet what somebody has. So when you're jealous, you kind of resent them for having it as well. So those are signs of brokenness. And let's see. So another one is uncontrolled anger. We talked about this a little bit last week. Who has Ephesians 4:31-32?
Ephesians. I think that was me. I picked that up. So
Okay.
Ephesians 4 and what?
31-32.
Oh, I was in the right place. Okay. So you said 30-32?
31. 31 to
Okay,
30.
thank you. Okay, let all Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. Be ye kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you.
All right. So anger, uncontrollable anger. So anything that gets you out of control. Self-control is a fruit of the Spirit. Anything that gets you out of control is a sign of brokenness. So being out of control. So if you're anger itself isn't a sin, but if you do something, if you sin because of it, or if you get out of control because of it, or if you're, you shouldn't be unkind because of you're angry. So being angry is a sign of brokenness. Being angry is oftentimes you want to be in control. So anger is a response to try to take control of the situation. Failure. So the next one is failure to forgive. Let's see. I don't think I gave out Matthew, so I'll do Matthew, then someone can do Philippians. Rodney, you maybe do Philippians 2:14 next. So I'll do Matthew now. Matthew 6:12 through 15 says, "And forgive us our debts as we have forgiven our debtors. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. For if you forgive others for their transgressions, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others, then your Father will not forgive you." So forgiveness, not forgiving people and holding grudges, that's a sign of brokenness. So someone has wronged you in the past, whether they've taken something from you, your innocence, your peace, your trust, your loyalty, your belongings, and you allow that to skew your vision of the world. And I know that's a tough one too. Forgiveness is a tough one, especially depending on the severity of what happened. And so we're not. So it's a sign of brokenness. We aren't going to have the solution in this lesson, but unforgiving is a sign of brokenness, not being able to forgive, and it can impact your life negatively. And the last one we have is if you are always complaining is a sign of brokenness. Let's see. Are you available to read, Rodney? I haven't seen you visible. Otherwise, can someone get Philippians 2:14?
I'll get it. Philippians 2:14.
Oh, are you coming on? No? Okay.
Yeah. For that, was that for me?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry. If someone has it, I'm still trying to pull it up. Sorry.
It said, "Do all things without murmuring and disputings."
Right. Yeah, so do all things without grumbling and disputing. So it says do everything without, grumbling, disputing, so complaining. So people that complain all the time, that's a sign of brokenness. They have something negative to say about everything. Everything that happens they're complaining about it, always complaining negative. That's a sign of, some things in the past have skewed their view of reality. So they're complaining all the time. Let's see, any thoughts on those? So those are the first set. That's the first set of fruits of brokenness. So we're actually going to pick up with more next week. Some are related to relationships and others. But that's the first set of fruits of brokenness. Any thoughts?
I thought I was home.
That's a good one.
I done marked down like at least 7 things on here. I'm like, oh Lord, I got some work to do with Jesus. Oh, yeah.
Well, if you I think, just being Christian alone and attending this Bible study is an effort, right? To try to get full.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, the intent of this last week, this week, next week is just basically to show us all that we have something to work on. I came in here with my list already, so I'm just giving you guys now a list to work on. So that's kind of the goal as through this series we'll all be working on these all together, and so it's just because the I'm whole already. So we're getting rid of the thought that I'm whole already. There's something that needs to be worked on. There's something that needs to be worked on, and if you pass all of these, then next week there'll be something. Yeah. Any other thoughts?
Just one.
Yes.
I wanted to apologize because it's just something that you said earlier reminded me. I will actually offer to help sometimes, and not realizing that it would make you or someone else feel like I'm saying they're incompetent. Like if I offer to help with a study or something, it was not ever an intention to make you feel like you didn't know what you were doing, or that you didn't have things under control. And this is something I've noticed that I've done in my lifetime, as far as offering to help someone when they didn't necessarily ask for it. So I just wanted to throw that out there and apologize if it was ever made to make anyone feel that was because I didn't think that they had things under control or weren't good enough or something like that. So.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, I didn't take it that way. Yeah, it also goes into, I guess, the person's opinion of you, and I mean, it just also, yeah, they're broke if they may interpret everything negatively, or if but thank you for that. Yeah, didn't take it that way, but it's not offering to help isn't I mean, it depends on it depends on the scenario. So it's more judging. If it's more judging, saying that something is good or bad was the issue. So that actually would be a way to do it, instead of saying, hey, you shouldn't put those dishes in that way. It may be easier to say, well, let me put the dishes in, because I think this way maybe if you're criticizing and telling the person to do it, it'll be received better if you're offering at least to do it. If you don't like the way they're folding clothes, if you're offering to fold them is one thing, but if you're telling them to do it differently, it's another thing. But,
Guilty. Wow, that hit the heart right there. That's me. I told you it's hard to hold back.
It's like,
I thought I was helping by saying, can I help you?
It's like, yeah, I appreciate you washing my car, but when you use your toothbrush to clean my wheels, there was a scratch on one of them that I noticed. So you might want to use a used toothbrush. Use a toothbrush. No, but yeah. All right. So let's see. So let's go into the conclusion. The second half of the conclusion, I'm going to quote. It's a strange person to quote because he's not really a Christian, Jordan Peterson, and I definitely disagree with a lot that he says, but and he's an atheist, but nobody. But now he's saying he tries to live his life as if there is a God. So in conclusion, we're saying, Let's see, once you get delivered from brokenness, the fruit goes away. Many people would rather cover up and build a false identity instead of dealing with their brokenness. Some people may want to recognize that their traits are the results, or may not want to recognize that their traits are a result of brokenness. Now, the quote says, "You've heard it said, the truth shall set you free." That is true, because it burns everything that's not worthy of it. We have an internal voice inside of us that tells us not to do something, yet we do it anyway. There's no shortage of brokenness in us to be healed. There's no shortage of parts of us that need to be burned away. Maybe that's why Moses encountered God in the burning bush. There's no shortage of pain where we encounter that brokenness. Well, what's the decision to make? You decide to believe and take a risk, to act on faith. You believe that the truth will set you free. You believe that people have an intrinsic divinity in their soul. You decide that you're going to live in a manner and let everything in yourself that's not worthy of that goal die off. And that might be everything that you are. And that's a terrible thing to contemplate. The only thing that's worse is the alternative. Because the alternative is a source of hell that we've produced in our world. So let's walk in the way, let's seek the truth and live the life. All right. Okay. Let's see. All right. Any final thoughts? Final thoughts? My computer tried to.
It was a good study. Good job.
Oh,
Michael.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for doing this. This was
All right.
poignant.
All right. So let me.
Excellent.
Glad you enjoyed it. So seek wholeness. Oh, so next week so we meet in 2 weeks. So the class is every other week. So in 2 weeks you can read along with chapter 2 of the book. If you're reading the book Wholeness by Torrey Roberts, chapter 2. So we aren't, as you see, we aren't going to be, it's not a book study. It's most of the content is not from the book, but we'll be following along and looking at examples from it and going through it. And and so we'll be going for a while. So I've got at least nine more lessons that I've got named. So we may be this may be another at least 6 months for wholeness. Wholeness takes a long time. One slice at a time to get the whole loaf. I'm not sure why we want to be bread, but that's how it works. Bread of heaven, bread of life. All right, so I will pray. I'll pray us out. Dear God, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for this fellowship, Lord. We thank you for the wholeness that you're giving to us, Lord. We thank you for the changes that you're making in our hearts, Lord. We thank you for the changes that you're making in our heads, Lord. We thank you for the changes that you'll be making in our life, Lord, for the future that you're set ahead of us, Lord, for the things that we'll get back that we lost, Lord, and for the things that we'll get back that we didn't know we lost, Lord, for the generational curses that will be canceled, Lord, and for the changes that we will make for generations to come, and for the ability to do what you built us to do, Lord, that you designed us before the creation of the heavens and earth with a goal in mind, and that we'll be able to, and that our one goal is that we'll accomplish that feat that you had in mind for us at the beginning of time, Lord, knowing that the day-to-day things we fear about, the day-to-day goals that we have may not be in alignment with that we'll get in alignment with your plans, with your goal for our lives, and know that it is bigger than us, and that once we see the goal, that we'll have the courage to step into it, Lord, and to change our lives and to change others around us, Lord, and to change the world in the way that you want it to be changed, Lord. These are all things we ask in the name of Jesus. Watch over us and protect us through this season, oh God. Protect us financially, Lord. Protect us, our health, Lord. Protect our loved ones, Lord. These and all things we ask in the name of Jesus. Amen.
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 All right.
Amen.